Welcome back. Coffee and Contemplation, episode 7. Clearing the energy, set some intentions here. It's been a long time coming. Coming back to filming this podcast, making just content in general. It's something that I always enjoyed doing when I was originally making a few episodes and things like that. But, life happens. You kind of pulled off into some things, but I'm excited to get back into some of this content and stuff. And I just feel like it's super relevant, and it almost gets to a point where it's unbearable for me not to talk about these things just because I find them so important. So this episode is kind of just redefining what coffee and contemplation is all about. Because people will be like, coffee and contemplation, where's the fucking coffee? And sometimes, a little bit about that, but mainly about the conversations that we're having, these deeper conversations, talking about spirituality and things like that, because I just feel like it's so important and relevant. And I think conversations like that are very healing and necessary. And what I see day to day, I just feel these topics are a little bit niche, but they need to kind of get brought to the light, because I think it's how we can navigate through some hard times, especially happening in our culture and things like that. But even individually, as we approach different traumas and things like that. So yeah, we're going to redefine a little bit about that today. I wrote a little blog for this episode. It's called Stop and Start, and that will be attached to wherever this is posted. But it just starts with a quote from a Jungian analyst. His name's Robert A. Johnson, and he just says, "In modern Western society, we have reached a point at which we try to get by without acknowledging inner life at all. We act as though there were no unconscious, as though we could live full lives by fixating ourselves completely on the external material world." And I really don't think anything is more true than that. We're working, earning, doing all of these things outside of ourselves, but are we really paying attention to anything that's going on inside? Sensations of our body, feelings that we're having. It's learning to live from like a different perspective, not so much as this go, 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 but sitting back and maybe giving up the life you think you want for the one that's waiting for you and being called to you. And that's connecting with something outside of yourself, outside of your ego. So each week, Coffee and Contemplation hopes to pause the action, create insight, and direct our intention towards our inner world. Our current culture places such a heavy emphasis on working, achieving, doing, and attaining in the external. However, we rarely take time to reflect on what's happening inwardly to our bodies, minds, and our souls. Our inner world holds a wealth of knowledge, guidance, and purpose to help direct our lives toward our highest meaning. To not acknowledge, trust, and use this information on the adventure of our lives leaves so much untapped potential, and worse yet, can lead to symptoms of anxiety, depression, and pain. I work with people every day who have horrible anxiety, depression, pain, all this sort of stuff, and all it is typically, in other ways of treatment is, take this drug, let's mask the symptom, you shouldn't be feeling that. And I think we need to start looking at these symptoms as signs to make a change in your life. These are all symptoms of something I'm doing needs to change, and I need to embrace that, embrace the unknown, embrace the change, step outside of my comfort zone. And I feel like that's how we beat these things. But to hide away from it and numb it, I just don't see it helping. I see it consistently making things worse. So that's why I do what I do on a daily basis, is to help people realize this, to help people realize that they're in control, to learn about awareness and all these different things that we'll really dive into individually as we create more content here. So we need to create a relationship with the energy of the unconscious forces of the world. The unconscious is the realm that's outside of our knowing, of our rational mind. Our egos can be rough. We think we know everything. We're trying to figure it out, but there's stuff that's going on that's outside of that we need to trust and learn to listen to, because it's directing us. It's something that transcends our ego. It's the oceans. I look at it as the ocean, and its currents are driving us to our destinations, and we think we're steering the boat. So we're like, oh yeah, I know where I'm going, but really there's other things and other factors going on, and then we need to learn to pay attention to them. Balancing our inner and outer worlds can help us ensure we're setting our sails with the wind and not trying to swim upstream. We don't want to climb a ladder and be on the wrong ladder. We don't want to get to the top of the mountain and be on the wrong thing. What are we meant for? What do we really want to do? How do you follow your bliss and reach your highest purpose? And I think sometimes our thinking mind, and we set these intentions and goals, it's like, but is that really what we want if we sit back? Or even if we just sit back and see what we're called to. So, your current mind might want something in the future, but how do you know that's what you want or need? A lot of times we don't know. So in here is a little diagram. Just pop up here. But it just shows where we live. Our ego in consciousness is there a lot of times. That's the I that we identify with. This is mainly who we are. We have our persona, our shadow, our animus and anima, and this is our inner world. And we're going to really start to highlight each one of these aspects of the psyche, and really dig into it. The unconscious and the collective unconscious, personal unconscious, and how can we navigate through even consciousness. This stuff is a little bit thick, but hopefully we can break it down as we go. From where I stand, the biggest issue of our time is that we are spiritually sick. We need to recognize that there are forces that play outside of our rational minds. We need to restore a belief in a higher power. We need people to experience and feel the divine aspect of life. I think the spiritual poverty that we have is wreaking havoc on our bodies, minds, and our culture. This podcast is meant to be a beacon for those looking to reconnect with the deepest aspects of themselves. After all, the only way we can truly change the world is for us as individuals to change ourselves. I think we see a huge issue with everyone trying to change everyone else, but we really just need to sit back and really make the changes in our day-to-day life and how we're interacting. Look at everything as an opportunity for inner growth, and how can I learn from this situation, and how can I navigate this better? Coffee and Contemplation is a community set on withdrawing our projections, creating connections, and building bridges to our inner world and our authentic selves to help us finally become whole once again. It's about connection. I think we're missing that. It's go, do, but how do we connect with one another on a deeper level? How can you create a tribe and people, like-minded people, to be around to help you reach your highest self? So where do we start? Where do we start with all of this? And I try to think back of where I started and how I got into all of this. I've always been interested in just fitness, taking care of my body. But then with that, I got kind of into psychology and learning about, plant medicines and the unconscious and all this sort of stuff. I got into reading Carl Jung and then more Jungian analysts and things like that. But I think it started with, me having my own trials and tribulations through life and just kind of feeling like, where do I go? Like, no one had the answer for me. Like, no one was coming to save me. And I think was a big realization I had, that no one is coming to save me. It's all me. So when I'm experiencing things like anxiety, depression, or whatever, that sort of stuff comes up, what do I do? And I think it started with this mindfulness meditation and kind of using Sam Harris's Waking Up app to really just start to dig in and learn about that, and as well as listening to some different YouTube clips from Ram Dass, who is a spiritual teacher. And it really just opened my eyes to, what consciousness even is and what I'm even doing here. So where do we start? I think it's with awareness. And I always say that creating awareness, that's my goal, is I want to help people create this awareness, to cultivate this space in themselves that is behind everything. It's just a witness. They'll say make 1% of you a witness, 1% of you that's just watching everything and noticing everything and isn't unattached to it. It's not judging it. It's not hurt by it. It's just seeing everything. And that's this, to me, that's this timeless part of you, this part that can connect with, the divine aspect of life. And I think it's tough to create that because we're constantly in our thinking mind, spinning. But the more you practice, I think you can find that space, and it's really powerful when you do. So awareness, with the mindfulness meditation, it teaches you to create psychological space. It teaches you that you're not your thoughts, feelings, roles, or even your body, but the awareness behind the things that appear in consciousness. It teaches you that what it means to be present. It helps you recognize your triggers, unconscious patterns, and moments when you're lost in thought. This practice allows you to take ownership of these things, set boundaries, and gain control. Because the stories we tell ourselves are the only things holding us back. And I see that every day. Every day. I'm in pain. I'm hurting. I have anxiety. This is who I am. And this is who I'm going to be forever. That's a story. And it's a victim story. And we can't be the victim of our stories. We can't be. We have to be the hero of our stories because we're all living a story. So what does the hero do? Because we know what the victim does a lot of the times. Because that's the people that come to me, I see the victim. I see them stuck. I see them stuck in a story where they can't win. And you need to create that in your mind. If you don't believe that, no one can help you. It's an inward journey. I can be a guide, but I can't do it for a lot of people. And I want to just keep shedding light on that. We're living a story and we need to be the hero of it. I have a little book review here. One of my favorite books that I read probably about like 4 years ago is this book, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. It has a lot of different concepts about being an amateur, being a professional, and some Jungian concepts and stuff like that I really connect to. But it tied together a lot of things I learned from people like Jordan Peterson, Sam Harris, Ram Dass, Dr. Joe Dispenza. So it's like, where do our thoughts, idea, and interests come from? Why are people interested in different things? Who's really in charge of these interests? If you pay attention, you'll notice it's not you. Like, I don't know why I'm interested in things I'm interested in. I just am. And you can't really help it. You're just pulled to it almost. They seem innate. You're drawn to the things you're drawn to. To me, that's a deeper part of you pulling you to those things. It's another quote I always say, it's what you seek is seeking you. And I feel that way. But we need clear space in the present to allow the truest aspect of ourselves to come through. You can't be lost in thought, clinging to the past, or worried about a future that doesn't exist. You need to create space so you can pay attention to what you want. And you'll know where you find meaning by paying attention to things you get lost in for hours. If you're doing something and hours go by and you're just fucking locked in, that says something, because other things you're doing and it's dragging by. It can be something that you feel a lot of resistance towards doing. I want to do this and I'm passionate about it, but there's so much resistance to get on here and do it. And it's probably part of yourself that you hide from people, especially people you're closest with. Because why would you want to be vulnerable and open the deepest part of you to people that you love with the fear of it being criticized instead of accepted? And I think a lot of times that happens is families can be toxic and you show who you are and they shut it down. And that is not an environment that maybe facilitates growth or you being your true self. So it's scary to do that. But in this book, it really highlights this. Like, what if we did not identify with these things so much or guard them so intensely? What if we didn't treat them as fragile or precious or even as our own? What if we shared them abundantly with one another? What if we looked at these things as our necessary sacrifice on earth? Because once again, they're not ours. Where do they come from? Why are we interested in this? And doing this, we can say it's a sacrifice to God, but really it's our sacrifice to the future. It's our duty to offer our unique contribution to the world. And we need to do our work for its own sake. In the Bhagavad Gita, that's like a Hindu spiritual text. They'll say, you have the rights to your labor, but not the fruits of your labor. And that's kind of my mindset. It's just I'm always doing work and that's it. I have the right to my work. What comes of it, I can't help. But when I do the work and I let it go, I see a lot of times that's what makes it stay. So listen closely to what's coming through for you. What are you drawn to? What do you need to do but feel resistance towards? Follow those things. Share it with the world, because I don't think it's an accident. Don't deprive us of the truest parts of you, because I think we need them. And I think if we all start to do this inner work and go towards those things and follow our highest meaning, I think we can really change the world, change the culture, connect with the deepest part of ourselves and move forward. So thank you guys for tuning in. This is a little intro episode. We'll begin to do a little series that I'm going to call Finding the Center. And we're going to go through these different aspects of the psyche. And we're going to learn about what individuation is. Individuation is a concept by Carl Jung. And it's about coming to wholeness by integrating these different aspects of our psyche and being more whole. Because being perfect is not a human trait. And I think our egos think they can be perfect sometimes, but they're not. So we need to learn to be whole, because that's how we can operate at our highest level in the world. Thank you guys. Share this, like it. We're going to start putting up a lot more stuff. So thank you all for tuning in. Peace.